What's going on, everyone? It's Moose here with Airguns of Michigan, and today we are not necessarily going to be talking about this FX Maverick. We are not going to be talking too much about the scope that's on here, which is the Element Helix first focal plane. But what we are going to talk about is mounting your optics. I'm just going to throw this out there. I know that everybody has their way of mounting their optics. I know that some of you are, you have your way of doing it. But one thing that I wanted to dive into is more about like, how do the long range precision shooters mount their optics? Why is it important to mount them levelly and things of that nature? And, just exactly how I go about personally mounting my optics. Now you may say, Moose, you've already got your optic mounted, and yes, I do. However, this is the issue that I run into. The way that this scope is set up, I am all the way at the front of my Picatinny rail here, and my bell housing has actually bumped right into the front optic. The issue that I run into is that when I'm shooting from the bench and I'm setting my eyesight, I actually like to be a little bit more forward. So when I move a little bit forward, now I start to get, fuzziness in my scope. It's, I get the ring effect. So in order to keep a clear sight of view, I have to be all the way back here, and it's just not comfortable for me. I want to be more forward. I want to be leaned into the gun a little bit more, and the way that it is, I can't move this optic any more further forward due to this scope ring. So what I've decided to do, and we're going to go ahead and do this together, is I have decided to use some cantilever mounts. And so I went out and got a set of Monstrum cantilever mounts, which if I mount this here, you could see how much more forward I can move my optic, right? So that's my intention during this whole thing, is to do that. Magnetic trays, listen, if you don't have a magnetic tray and you're taking your stuff apart, you should probably go out and get yourself one. They're really handy for not misplacing screws and stuff like that. Of course, my wife is texting me in the middle of a video, but that's all right. We're just going to take this off of here first, and then we're going to address leveling and getting our optic in its optimal eye relief range for you in particular. Everybody's a little bit different. Everybody has a tendency to hold their gun slightly differently than other people. Mine is no exception. I certainly have my own way of doing my optics and things like that. So we're gonna go ahead and take these UTG rings off. I love these UTG rings. I just wish that this rail was just a little bit longer for like I said, for the way that I shoot. So one thing that I have on my gun, and I have it on most of my precision shooting guns, is I have a bubble level that's mounted to my Picatinny rail, so that way when I do address my my gun, I can make sure that this level is always level, so I know that I'm shooting levelly to everything else that's going on. So what I do like to do when I check these is you can go ahead and pick these up. I picked up a knockoff version. This is the Wheeler type, of leveling system. I just happened to pick up a knockoff version, and yep. So when my level is level with my Picatinny, so is my actual bubble level on my rifle. So that plays a big part in knowing that that you are level. The next thing that I do is I go ahead and take my front leveling system, and I place that up here on my barrel. And the purpose behind this is to ensure that once we have the gun level, that while we're doing other work to the gun, that it's continuously staying level. So the nice thing about this is it does have a micro adjustment on here, so I can actually turn that down and get my level exactly where I want it. And I will be doing a review of this leveling system. If you guys aren't familiar with this, the idea behind this is that when we take this level and we set it onto our Picatinny rail, we are to level the gun so that that bubble is directly in between those two lines, right? You could probably even go further, you know, as far as, you know, micro tuning, but, you know, for the distances that I shoot, you know, maybe up to 200 yards, you hear Buck in the background watching TV. This is proven to me to be as accurate as I need it to be, and I'm getting quite good accuracy. So, and then obviously our front bubble level, we're going to lock to the barrel, make that level. So now if I take this off and I move the gun, that front level is going to maintain my my actual level to the gun. So next thing that we want to do is take these rings off of the top of here. Now, these are only single point rings, but I'm not shooting a high power rifle with a ton of recoil or even a break barrel. So one of these is going to be more than enough to hold my optic into place. You know, this gun doesn't really see the woods or anything like that, so I really don't need to worry about it, you know, smacking trees or, you know, anything like that. So, you know, for what these are more than enough for what I need them to do. Now, this is one thing that I've learned along the way, and I've really found it really quite interesting, because I never really thought too much about this, is once you've set this first mount, you can take your level and just set it on there, and wouldn't you know it, it's perfectly level. I find that I see a lot of people out there that accidentally put on their scope rings, and their scope rings are actually off, and then it creates issues with everything else that they're doing. And you know, in play, it certainly makes for a hard time to get your gun to be, or your scope to be actually level. So after I put my rings on, I just simply check for level again. Now I can go ahead and I can set my optic into the gun. Now at this point, I'm going to get the gun set up to where I'm going to be shooting with my bench, and oh, it's so much better already. And then I can move my scope forward and backwards. See, I'm getting a little fuzzy there. If I move it back forward, it's like crystal clear. It is absolutely vibrant. This is exactly how I want to be. I can actually even lean a little bit forward into the gun, and even come back. I get a little bit of ringing right there, but this is how I'm going to shoot my gun. Even if I'm shooting the gun offhand, when I'm leaned in now, my scope is right on the money. So you can see that, you know, my bell started out more back here. I moved it forward about an inch, and it is outstanding. So that is one reason, like I said, that I actually wanted to go with the cantilever style mounts, was to move my optic more forward. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to ensure that we have a level bubble up on the tip of our gun. And we do. I happen to have a bipod that has cant to it, so I can slightly move my gun and have it level itself out. If you don't happen to have one of those, you can utilize like a tipped-in gun vise, or you can utilize even one of these simple tipped-ins. These things are like 10, 11 bucks, but it's a great way to hold your extra rifles as you're working on one and things like that. So now we've tested the level in our mounts. We've both of them, right, in our scope rings. We've tested the level up here. The level back here that's already on my gun is still showing level. And now we can actually take this bubble level, stick it on top of the scope, and it's actually level. If I look through my scope, I can see that my crosshairs, even to my eye, look exactly straight up and down, and horizontally and vertically, the crosshairs look spot on. So, and even with the bubble level on top of them, we're still in good shape. Now, this is where I really wanted to talk to you guys more than anything else. I mean, listen, we've all mounted optics. We've all done our optic mounting. So really, I mean, this is kind of just a refresher to mounting an optic. However, there's another point that comes up with mounting optics, and that is torque settings. We want to make sure that when we are mounting our optics, that two things happen. One, we maintain an even gap between left and right, or in my case, right and left, for the rings, because we don't want the rings to push the optic out of alignment. And if your screws are pinched one side or the other, it can actually start to turn your scope as you tighten those down. So we're going to be taking a little bit of time with tightening these things down. We're going to do like a crisscross pattern across there and things like that, maintaining this bubble level up here to ensure that this bubble level, the one that I have attached to my Picatinny rail, and the one on top of the optic are remaining centered. Right? We want to make sure that straight up and down from the barrel to the Picatinny rail to the top of the scope, we have that center bubble. And that center bubble is going to be very important as far as keeping this scope in good shape. So let's see here. I think this is the correct one I need. It is. So for those of you guys that don't already possess an inch-pound wrench, for a long time I had the mechanical version of this wheeler. I actually just went out and I ordered this digital version of the wheeler to ensure that when I'm tightening these down, that I'm not going past 15 inch-pounds of pressure. And the reason for that is because this is aluminum, and it can be smashed. Just like putting anything into a vise, it's the same principle as you're pushing that down, and you can actually cause damage to this tube. We don't want to cause any damage to this tube, because if we do, then our turrets might not function properly. Our zoom power may not function properly, and we certainly don't want to damage our optics. So we're going to go ahead and turn that on, and I am at 15 inch-pounds. And here's where it takes a little bit of finesse. We are actually going to try to crisscross these patterns as slowly, just giving them little turns here and there. Nothing fancy. We don't want to go too fast, because the first time that you crank one of these down, you're going to start creating cant in your scope. And believe me, I know this because I've done this a bunch of times. So, we're just going to keep going in a crisscross pattern until we get to a point where the wheeler inch-pound screwdriver actually starts telling us, hey, you're at 15 inch-pounds. And then we're going to know it's going to be time to stop. All right. So we're just going to keep going. And we got to get pretty close here. Oh, you know what? That might have been my fault. No, that's the right one. Yeah, that's the right one. Is it? You know what? Let me grab a different bit here. I think the bits that came with the wheeler may not be as precise as some of these other bits that I have. So I want to make sure that you know, I'm maintaining a good solid. I don't want to strip these things out, right? So let's see what this one is. There we go. That's it. So I'm not really sure which size that was for that wheeler, but it certainly was not the 3mm that I required. So, all right. So we just hit 15 inch-pounds on this one. We're gonna come over here. There you go, 15 inch-pounds. Come back over here. 15 inch-pounds. 15 inch-pounds. Now, I did bump my gun, so my levels came a little out of adjustment, but we're going to go ahead and set those levels back. And there we go. We're right back in line with where we need to be. And I'm going to try to turn the gun so that you guys can actually see what I'm talking about here. So setting there, you can see that that bubble's level. And then even up here, and I'm a little off. I'm a little off. I'm a little off. There it goes. There it goes. It's coming back. All right. So now we know that we've got a good level. So the last thing that we want to do is go ahead and check one more time just to make sure, and my crosshairs and my bubble level on my Picatinny rail are absolutely 100% horizontal and vertical the way that I like. I can lean into my gun now, so when I'm on the bench and I've got my bag and I'm getting ready to take my shots, that is a very, very clear, you know, optic for me. Like I said, I have a tendency to lean a little bit more into my gun than sitting back a little bit further. So, you know, for me, this was the absolute perfect resolution to what I needed to do. I just needed some cantilever mounts to move that optic a little bit more forward, and even grabbing my gun and sticking it up on my shoulder. I mean, it is absolutely spot on. So I hope that helped to answer a few questions. I know I kind of went through it quick, but you know, what I've found is that, you know, like I said, the majority of you guys, we've all mounted scopes before. So there's no real reason to go over every single basic, you know, thing that we do. But like I said, the important thing is having this level. Hey, Buck.
Hi, Dad.
Yeah, Buck came over to join us.
What are you doing there?
I'm recording a video. What are you doing?
Yes.
Would you like to come over and sit in your chair?
Say.
There you go. Hop up in there, bud. Do you want some help? You got it?
I got it.
And for those of you that ever wonder, this is my son Jackson. Let me get this gun a little bit more out of the way. This is my son Jackson. Say hi to everybody, Jackson. Say hi.
Hi.
And you know, and honestly, the whole reason that I got into air gunning in the first place, or at least more into it, because I've always been an air gunner. But 5 years ago, me and Jackson's mom found out that we were going to be blessed with a son. And, well, maybe 4.5 years ago. I don't know. You figure it out. He's 4. He just turned 4. But I knew that I wanted to do something to enjoy with my son. And so, you know, I had shot in the past, and he was even shooting a little bit, you know, prior to his birth. But I knew that I wanted to have something that him and I could enjoy together. So technically, as you guys see all these guns that I buy. These guns are being purchased for him, for his future. Me and my wife were actually just talking about it the other day, and I said, I'd really like to get him into competitive shooting. And I said, the best part is that I've already got some amazing guns that, in the next, probably in the next year, by the time he's 5, I think we're going to start letting him, sit down at the range with me. And,
Where's my pew-pew?
Where's your pew-pew?
Where did it go?
Where'd you move it?
Look
around for it. I don't see it.
Where did it go?
I don't know. Look.
Where?
He's looking for his Red Ryder.
Where?
I did buy him a Red Ryder, actually, for his first Christmas before he was born. Christmas came. He was born on the 13th of January, so he got... There it is. There it is. So he actually does have a Red Ryder, and, we let him plink around with it. There's nothing in it. He doesn't have access to BBs or anything, so don't freak out and be like, oh my God, you're letting your kid run around with a BB gun. Yes. Supervised, he is allowed to play with that. But like I said, that's why I got into air gunning, is to be able to do something fun with my son. And I would implore any of you that have children that are into air gunning, or maybe even potentially are going to have children and are into air gunning, is to, let them involved, let them be involved. It's honestly, it's a hobby that the entire family can do. And, just these little things, like mounting scopes and things, he watches me do this stuff all the time, and, he really enjoys, hanging out with us. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I hope it just kind of gave you guys a little bit of insight on, some of the importances, like I said, having a good leveling system is absolutely one of the must-haves for doing an optic. I do know that, there's a lot of people that use like a string, they'll just, put a little weight on the end of a string, hang the string, and then adjust their crosshairs accordingly. And that's fine too, but the issue then becomes is how level is your gun? If your gun is not level, and then the sight level to the gun, then, you're really not doing yourself justice, because then you have a tendency, if your gun's canted but your scope is level, then that becomes a problem if you are trying to do precision shooting. So it's just as important to have your gun leveled first, then make sure that your mounts are level, then make sure that your optic is level. And it really does help also to have somebody with you. If you can get somebody before you put your top rings on, to get yourself comfortable looking through your optic, for them to move your scope back and forth for you to where you can find that sweet spot in your scope, then it's going to make a huge difference when you bolt this thing all together and you go to sit down and you go, oh, it's a little off again. It's not, listen, you got all the time in the world just to keep taking looks through your scope. Just pull your face off, lean back into it like you're going to shoot, pull your face off, lean back in like you're going to shoot, lean back in like you're going to shoot. And I'm going to tell you right now, every time that I look through this optic, it is bright and right. It is the best picture that I can get on this. And like I said, some of the issues that I ran into with having my scope a little too far back was that I had to be uncomfortable with my face back here, which didn't give me a lot of my free reign to really relax into the gun. But now that I can really relax and just, because that's really how you want to be, right? You want to be taking shots just as perfectly relaxed as you possibly can. And once you achieve that, you're going to see a difference in the groupings that you have. And, and while we are, you want to go shoot a deer?
Yeah.
Well, it's out of season, bud, but go see if you can find one. Scope leveling is important all the way around. If you're shooting 20 yards maybe you can deal with a scope that's a little out of whack. As soon as you get past 50 yards,
I got it.
did you get a deer?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna start seeing a big difference in your groupings. You're gonna see also that if you're a dialer like I am, and you click, let's say, 1 MOA, that not only did you come up if you're dialing up in MOA, but you're also a little bit off to the left. So now all of a sudden, now you're back here adjusting to the right, or to the left, and that's what we want to avoid. We want, when I dial 1 MOA up, it is a perfectly straight line. And I do test my scopes, even after I've done all this scope mounting, is I'll sit down, get my gun nice and solid on my bench with a rear bag, and I'll shoot 1 shot. And then I'll take my my scope and I'll dial 1 MOA. And then, or maybe 4 MOA, it doesn't matter. And actually, technically, I take that back. It does matter. Go up 4 or 5 MOA, and then get back onto your sight, pull the trigger, and see if that next shot is perfectly above your other shot, right? Because that's a great way to tell if your scope is mounted correctly and you don't have any cant to the gun or to the optic or to yourself, right? Which is why we use these little bubble levels that attach to our Picatinny rails. Because in the long run, that's going to make a huge difference when you go from shooting, sub 50 foot to, or 50 yards to, 100, 150, 200 yards. If you're going to dial to 200 and you're cranking your dial, and then you shoot off, and not only are you, maybe you're on, but now you're off to the left 4 inches, that's a problem. So like I said, those are my tips. If you guys have any questions, I am going to do, I think I actually did another video on this, this leveling system. And I can honestly tell you that it's great. And I know there's other ones out there. I really do. I know that there are, like the, I don't remember exactly what they're called, and I'm going to get a set just because I'm going to take a look at them, but like they have the leveling blocks that go in here, and you can put the two together, and it's supposed to sit perfectly underneath the bell housing on your optic and make it, square to your gun. Here's the problem that I run into with that is not all guns are created equally, and not all optics are created equally. This Monstrum does have a flat bottom, but look at where I have it mounted on this set of cantilever rings. The bell bottom, the bottom of my housing here, is actually sitting over top of the bottom or the top of one of my cantilever mounts. So that system isn't going to work for me because it's going to push, and the only place that I could make it work would be on the rounded end of this tube, and so that's not going to work for me, right? Because no matter how I turn the scope, it's always going to look like it's level, which is why I do prefer the actual bubble levels, as well as a bubble level on your Picatinny rail, or even like the Eagle Visions that screw into the Eagle Vision rings. That's another great way to go. But remember, level the Picatinny rail, make sure your gun's level, insert this onto your barrel, and make sure that its bubble is level. And like I said, it's got a little micro adjuster. So, however you put it on your gun, it'll work. And then mount your rings, make sure that your rings are level, set your scope in, put your top mounts on, and then set the bubble level on top. And actually, even like looking at my gun right now, even putting this bubble level on there, it is still level. So we know that we did a good job. My Picatinny's level, and so is my top level. So, we've now created a great start to an amazingly accurate shooting time for all of us to have, right? And that's obviously what we want. We want accuracy. If we didn't want accuracy, we'd be using BB guns and shooting pop cans, which is so fun as it is. So I'm not trying to say anything bad about BB guns. I got a whole slew of them over there, and you know, it is what it is. But, you know, just keeping in mind that we are going for accuracy, you know, with these high dollar guns and these, you know, semi-high dollar optics. You know, this certainly isn't a super expensive optic, but for some it is, and actually for me it is. You know, it's not easy to come off of $500 for an optic, but it is what it is. So with that being said, I'm Moose. This is Airguns of Michigan. If you guys have any questions about leveling optics, or even if you guys have input, I'd love to hear it. I base my experience on personal experience, as well as looking at the tips that the long-range precision shooters use. I know there's lots of other ways that, you know, people have different ideas on how to level perfectly, and I'm all for it. I'm not telling you that my way is the right way or the wrong way. I'm just simply saying this is how I like to level my optics, and I have very good luck doing it. So with that being said, once again, I'm Moose. This is Airguns Michigan. Thanks for joining, and we'll catch you guys next time. Take care.